Right, morning everyone. Liam Butt, Platinum Personal Training, coming at you today with a big Q&A session. I've got Greg Allison, Physique Elite Personal Trainer, joining me today. Greg, thanks for coming and joining us, mate.
Welcome, thanks for having me.
Right, we got Greg? We've got 19 questions to cover today.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of varied topics. You're going to benefit from, obviously, my opinions on the various topics, Greg's opinions also. So it's sort of double bubble today. Thanks everyone that's watched any of my videos so far and has enjoyed those and has maybe taken some bits from them. Hopefully it's been beneficial. Let's crack on, Greg, shall we?
Yeah.
Right, first question came in from a colleague of mine. It was following a Facebook post a couple of weeks ago. And it is, what is a calorie-controlled cheat meal? Okay, so for me, there's two types of cheat meals. There's a calorie-controlled cheat meal and there's an all-out cheat meal. Okay? I'm dieting at the moment, so I'm taking a calorie-controlled cheat meal down once a week, and I'm taking a full cheat meal down once a fortnight, so it's every other. A calorie-controlled cheat meal is where I'll work out my macros over the course of the day, and I will not go outside of my bracket of calories, okay? So if on a training day, I'm taking down 3,800 calories, I'll chip a few calories out of each meal to allow me to have a calorie-controlled cheat meal at the end of the day. So say, for instance, if I remove 150 calories from each of my 5 meals, that gives me 750 calories to play with. And I'll have something like some dark chocolate, total Greek yogurt, maybe some sweet potato fries and some chicken, something along them lines. An all-out cheat meal, be the Colonel, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Be the Colonel, yeah.
No holds barred.
Be no holds barred. A couple of thousand calories, boost the metabolism up. But a calorie-controlled cheat meal, let's say, is a cleaner cheat meal. So it's a treat, but it's not an all-out treat. Okay? Greg, pretty simple that one, mate, and I won't chuck that one over.
Pretty straightforward, mate.
Right, okay, so next question. What is the most important exercises for me to include? And I like the fact that this person put exercises, not exercise. But what are the most important exercises for me to include in my program if I want to increase my 1 rep max bench? Okay, so I don't bench particularly often. Every time I bench, I get injured. But for me, bench obviously is a formidable chest exercise, lots of front shoulder recruitment, lots of tricep. But for me, I think anchoring onto the bench by spreading your lats, digging into the bench with a good solid back is really, really, really important. What I would say there is, I actually know this individual quite well, and he does all of the right sort of exercises. But what I would recommend is do some tempo work, do some range work. So work out where you're weak in the bench. If you're weak at the lockout, do more lockout work. Hit the triceps a bit harder so you've got that lockout power. If you're weak off the chest, okay, work on that specifically. So do some partials, some strong partials. Again, position is important, and I think having a good solid set of lats helps you to anchor onto the bench, shoulders back and down. Any pressing movement for chest can be beneficial. Front shoulders got quite a lot going on there as well, so get your pressing movements in for shoulders. Make sure you're doing close grip benches on your tricep day. Remember as well, for me, close grip bench is not so much close grip, it's closer grip and tight elbows. Greg, I'm sure you'll be the same. I never grip a bar like that. You're looking at massive stress on the wrists.
Just so the elbows can drop to the side of your body rather than like putting it right across.
Exactly.
Yeah, like you say, it just puts a lot of undue stress.
Massive amount of stress on the joints. Yeah, so just to clarify on that one, I think that just work out where you're weak in the bench, either the bottom, middle, or top portion. So to stretch the middle or the contracted portion. Do some specifics for that. If you go to a good powerlifting gym, then someone there will be able to do some block work with you. So building blocks off your chest. But similarly, what I would also say that the bench, and I think Greg will agree, is quite a dangerous exercise with regard to pec and shoulder issues.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what my 1 rep max bench is, because I wouldn't personally risk doing it.
No, I don't. I hardly ever do it,
No.
to be honest. Hardly ever.
Maybe down to 5s, maybe do a 5x5. If you know, I totally appreciate everyone wants to have a good bench, but I don't want torn pecs. So I skip it myself, but hopefully that's answered your question. Make sure your grip's right, make sure your foot position's right, glutes tight on the bench, upper back tight on the bench, and you'll have no problems.
Like that, there's a few, like Liam just covered then, obviously work out where you're weak with the lift. So like obviously there's a use of chains that a lot of people use. Like if you're weak at the top, use the chain so the weight gets heavier as you lift it up. That's always a good shout. And there's a lot of being careful to not go too heavy, but explosive training can help as well.
Yeah,
if you're weak from the bottom, if you're weak from the bottom, maybe drop it to 50% of your 1 rep max. Do say like 8 sets of 3 or something on explosive work, so firing the bar up as fast as you can. But again, obviously you've got to be careful to prevent injury. Make sure you're fully warmed up and you're using like 50% of your 1 rep max.
Great points. Bands and chains, definitely bands and chains. Okay, moving on. Fasted cardio, worth it or a waste? Surely stimulating metabolism by food intake is better. Better, worse is always quite black and white. Very, very, very dependent on the individual. Okay, if you're an ectomorph, if you naturally err on much lower body fat, if you're skinny, fasted cardio is not going to be for you. No. If you hold naturally higher body fat, if you're a little bit more endomorphic or even mesomorphic, if you're naturally more muscular, fasted cardio can be great in a lean-in phase. I would say if you're off season or you're not specifically looking to get any leaner, I would just if you want to do cardio, I would just put it in after your training. It's not a waste for some people, and the question said surely stimulating metabolism by intake of food is better. That's a great shout, and the individual that sent me this question clearly does know a bit about training, because metabolism for me is so important. I'm not going to go into it too deeply now because we've actually got a question about that later, Greg. Well, we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. But for me, possibly try some branched-chain amino acids, like 1 gram for every pound of body weight, maybe. So if you're 200 pounds, be 20 grams of BCAAs. Before you do cardio, just so you've got something to preserve your muscle tissue. And I would probably say if you're doing fasted cardio, you would be better off to do your LISS cardio, your low intensity steady state, and your high intensity would be later when you've got some fuel in.
That's right. Yeah. You deplete. You're depleting your glycogen stores when you're doing like high intensity training. Obviously, you don't want to be doing that fasted. And like you say, just make sure it's fasted cardio. But if I ever do it, and I do it. But I'll take some BCAAs, glutamine, maybe some like carnitine or something like that before and after to cover all my bases.
Yeah, brilliant. For me, those of you that know what I do, I'm a big advocate of the insulin sensitivity diet, so I only eat 1 carb meal a day. So I try really to only train once a day. If I was doing high intensity cardio at 6 o'clock in the morning, and like yesterday, I didn't finish training until 9 o'clock at night. That's a long time for me to be running with no glycogen. I wouldn't be a very nice character to be around on that day, I don't think so. So it's a good question. I would like to definitely see you stimulate metabolism by intake of the correct foods. I'd like to see you doing that anyway. That's a standard thing. Remember, LISS cardio is probably slightly derogatory to the metabolism. If you can hear crunching in the background, by the way, that's the dog. He's down there eating a big cow leg, a reindeer, yeah. So it's a great question. So very, very dependent on your body type. Give it a whirl. See if you lose body fat. Remember, losing weight, losing body fat are 2 different things. Okay, but it's a great question. Right, next one should be pretty quick. My son is 14 and wants to start lifting weights. Is he too young to start training? For me, training, no, he's not too young. Training for, say, for instance, 1 rep maxes and such, like he probably is maybe a year, 2 years, maybe too young. Remember, the bone plates aren't fully developed at that age. The bones are still ever so slightly soft. So let's just get past this one quite quickly. No, he's not. This is actually another colleague of mine, and I know your son. He's a lovely lad. Tell him to come and speak to me in the gym, and I'll give him some bits that he can do safely and effectively. He'll still be able to gain some muscle. Would I have him doing 1 rep max bench, 1 rep max squat? Definitely not. I probably wouldn't have him doing anything under 12 to 15 reps.
No, that's right. Yeah, just be a bit careful.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
also you can utilise a lot of body weight. Pull-ups, press up. Training is good. For many age, I think.
Absolutely.
Like you say, just be a little bit careful with the weight training.
Definitely. Okay, right, so that's we're 4 questions deep already. 10 minutes in, I'm going to throw you over to my esteemed colleague for the day, and he's going to run 4 questions at you. So, Greg, if you want to take it away, mate.
Yeah, thanks. So, I've got one here. What's the biggest mistake that you see in the gym? And for me, we've just been chatting about this before. For me, is inexperienced lifters is coming in the gym and either trying to lift too much weight or not lifting to tempo. So if you're wanting to improve your body composition, but then when they get in the gym, the ego takes over, and they're there like trying to lift up whatever they can, as heavy as they can, sort of thing. It's not going to do anything for you if you haven't got the correct form, and you're not lifting the weight correctly. You're not going to change your body. You've got to put the muscle under stress to change it. You've got to force that change within your body. So drop the weight. Don't worry. If you're a weightlifter, obviously, then that's fine. If you want to get into bodybuilding, then obviously you're looking to build your body. So people get the two confused. Like if you're a powerlifter, that's great. You're moving the weight from A to B, and that's great. But don't expect to be cut to bits and ripped with big bulging muscles when you're just not lifting to tempo at all.
Yeah, do remember that, guys. Powerlifting. I put a post on recently actually that Ben Bakulski put on, and I hope I get this exactly right. But he said that powerlifting is about making heavy weights seem light. Bodybuilding is about attempting to make lightweights feel heavy. So Greg said about it was good. So Greg said about tempos. Greg, what tempos would you use? You do 401s, 301s?
Yeah, I'll do that a lot. I'll change it as well. I'll change my rep ranges but I do always try and control that negative.
Yeah. So by what we say by 401s, guys, remember you've got 3 portions of a lift. You've got the eccentric, and if we show you with a chest press, you'll understand it. So you take your bar out. Say, for instance, you've got an eccentric portion, which is the lowering portion. So on a 401 tempo, you would do that for 4 counts. 4 seconds if you're a sadist, 4 counts if you're not. So it'll be 4, 3, 2, 1. The 0 is the isometric portion, so that's the hold. That will be 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 1. Okay? So eccentric, isometric, concentric. Every single lift has those 3 portions. They seem upside down in some lifts, depending on where you start. Okay? Say, for instance, a squat, you would lower for the 4. Okay? With a bicep curl, you would be, say, for instance, lowering for 4, but you can do the hold will sometimes come in at the stretch point or the contraction point. I actually ordinarily write my tempos by 4 ways, which would be like 4011. So it'd be 4 seconds down, 0 hold, 1 drive and a 1 hold at the top as well.
At the top,
you'll see some people write 401, some will write 4011. It depends who. It depends on it would depend on what individual we're training.
I think a lot of people get confused.
They do. I've seen 4 on the concentric. I've seen 4 on the hold. But Greg's hit the nail on the head when with one thing he said there, which is just controlling lowering the weight. Remember, guys, it takes the body. It's more stressful on the body to lower a weight correctly than it is to lift it. You can break down more muscle fibers lowering. This kind of almost can take us back as well to that 1 rep max bench question. Yeah. Overload the weight with 2 good spotters and do some force negatives. So lower, if you're a 3-plate bencher, put 3.5 plates on. You need good spotters that you trust, okay? Which is why I wouldn't be doing it, because I don't trust any spotters. Say, for instance, again, I'm skipping back to this question. If you take 3 plates out, bang, no problems. You put an additional 2.5 out and it buries you, then you're not eccentrically loading correctly. And you'll always have a stronger contraction if you eccentrically load correctly. I totally agree with Greg there about tempo lifting. It doesn't have to be 401, 301. It just has to be more controlled.
Yeah. Don't drop, don't bounce. You know, like with regards to chest press, just don't crash the bar or the dumbbells off your chest and bouncing them up, sort of thing. 'Cause you're not getting anything from that.
Me and Greg spoke as well about periodised training. Okay, and we kind of concurred on our points. I totally agree with Greg's, and similarly, he was in agreement with me is making sure that you're training in a periodised fashion. If you do 12 to 15 reps every single time you come in the gym, or 5 reps every single time you come in the gym, or whatever, your body will get used to it. Now, you need to do consistently the same with increasing resistance over a course of weeks to get to the adaptation phase. So do not think I'm telling you now to change things every time you come in the gym, but periodise your training in 12-week blocks. So I spoke about this in one of my previous videos. Set out a series of lifts, increase the weight week on week. Okay, you'll induce strength and hypertrophy. Okay. Reassess at the 4, 8 and 12 week points. If you're still gaining at 12 weeks, keep going. If you're not, reassess. If you don't know how to do that, you've got people like me and Greg that do. This is what we do for a living. And periodising your training is so important. So biggest mistakes in the gym for me and Greg, not lifting with correct tempo or controlling the weight, and not hitting a periodised program. Yeah.
Boom. All right. Next one. What is the best way to strengthen a back after a major incident? And I believe this is one of your clients, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
This one over to you first.
Yeah. So this coming from a client of mine who had a very severe car accident. So obviously, what I went over with Chris was to obviously make sure you've identified what's actually the issue. Okay. What we found with this, or should I say what I found with this individual, was he had a massive neck trauma. And actually, around the trapezius, the sternocleidomastoid became very weak. But what we actually found was it pulled him into a very protracted and very protected posture. It lengthened the lower back in kind of both the erectors and the lumbars, and we actually found that was the main issue, was that his lower back became very lengthened, very weak. And if we done most exercises, we found he was collapsing back into that posture. Chest was getting tighter, back was getting weaker. So basically what I did with this individual was I started out with some very simple retraction work in the shoulder blades. We did some very simple floor bits to stimulate deep core and the more superficial muscles of the core as well. His glutes were still firing, which was actually ideal. You tend to find that one postural defect will pull all of the others out, and you'll find that if the chest becomes weak, the upper back's not firing, then the lower back doesn't fire, the core doesn't fire, the glutes don't fire, nothing fires. We were quite lucky really with this individual. His glutes were still firing, so we were able to get him into the correct positions to produce the exercises. And we very much went back to basics with regard to making sure that he was utilising his whole body with regard to getting his position right, which everybody should be doing anyway. You see people all the time and they've got their feet skew-if on the floor, or hands are not quite in the right places. For me, and I'm sure for Greg as well, even if I'm sitting on a leg extension, a lat pull down, whatever, feet are in alignment. I'm in neutral spine. I know it's kind of teaching you to suck eggs a little bit, to say shoulders back and down, chin tucked, pelvis in alignment, soft knees and whatnot. But this is why I've never been severely injured. I don't think Greg's ever been severely injured, apart from maybe in the ring a few times.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
He's normally injuring other people, his opponents. Greg's a very accomplished kickboxer. But yeah, we just went back to basics, made sure that the core was firing, okay? And what my goal is for this individual, I've seen him I'm seeing him on a fortnightly basis, and he actually jumped the gun, which was fantastic. And actually asked me at the end of our last set, will I ever be able to squat? And I said, that's exactly what I'm aiming you for. And that takes us forward again into another question, so I won't go into that too greatly. But best way to strengthen your back after a major accident, again, make sure it is your back that's the issue. It was, in this case, the back. So we made sure that we were firing the right muscles. We did very, very simple exercises. We found that the prone cobra was a great exercise for Chris because he had very, very little ability to hyperextend in the lower back or to extend at all. And we're making good forward progress. And I'll keep you posted on that one, actually, because it's an interesting one. So next video, I'll let you know his progress. Okay? And hopefully he's become a better driver by then as well, and he won't have had another accident.
Also, just covering that again, like we said, obviously, if you're looking to get in shape, you come in, you consult an expert in that field. But if you're injured, if you have any niggles, anything like that, go and see a specialist. Invest in yourself. I'll go and see a top specialist once a month, even if just to maintain myself. If I'm training at a high intensity, I'll train like 6, 7 times a week, so twice a day. You know, I'm taking kickboxing classes, I'm taking, doing jiu-jitsu lessons and stuff like that, as well as lifting weights, sprints, doing my body, I can't maintain that constantly. Invest in yourself, and for the sake of £30-40 a month, it's good just to go see a specialist to realign you, to loosen up the little bits that you might be having some problems. Just longevity is the key, especially for old bastards like me, getting a little bit older now. You know what I mean? You've got to start investing in yourself a little bit.
25 now, Greg, isn't you?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Greg's absolutely right. If you need details of any of them specialists, and email one of us at the end, we will give our details. Do remember, guys, your personal trainer is not a physio, he's not a chiropractor, he's not a summer massage, but I say, for instance, me or Greg could give you a rough insight into your injury, but I have got no problem, and I know Greg hasn't. If you come to us, if you were to come to me in the gym and say, I've got this niggle or that niggle, I can take a look at it, but it's not my field. And I am more than comfortable with referring you to a specialist and saying, that's not my field. It would be like going to a doctor because you've got a problem with your tooth. You'd go to the dentist. And again, we will give details of that, of those individuals at the end if you need it. I get all my work done at 360 Health and Fitness, which is the physio centre, which is situated in the David Lloyd Centre. They've got some great people there, and I know Greg gets a bit of work done in the local area as well. Right, Greg, let's move on then, bud, shall we?
So, next one, we've got protecting ligaments and tendons from the pressures and stresses of training at high volume.
I'd just like to quickly say, the individual that sent this in, you don't train high intensity or high volume, Kinchon. You don't train hard.
It's over.
He does. A very, very good friend of mine sent this in. And he's doing fantastic with his training, and it's an absolutely brilliant question.
It is
absolutely brilliant question.
Very good question. I'll actually learn a lot myself, doing a little bit of research into this question. Yeah. So it is a good question. Obviously, your ligaments and tendons, they significantly assist.
We've got a third.
Third expert here. With the process of muscular extension and contraction. Obviously, if you tear or if you injure yourself there, your ligaments or tendons, there's a 50-week average recovery rate, which is a long time.
Is that right?
50 weeks,
50 weeks? 50 weeks. That's a year?
Yeah, pretty much a year for full recovery. I'm not saying you won't ever be able to, you'll not be able to train, but if you've ever damaged ligaments or tendons, it's horrible. You think you're over it, and then all of a sudden you turn one way, and then boom, and then you get hit with that. It's nasty. So prevention obviously is better than cure, especially in this case. What I would do generally with the areas that give you a little bit of problems, I'll do a full and intensive. Not intensive, a full warm-up.
Comprehensive warm-up.
Warm-up. Get the blood sending the nutrients to that area that you're going to be using.
Perfect.
Just to make sure that all your bases are covered before you start doing it. And also use exercises that stress the major muscle groups, like your thighs, your chest, your back, and your shoulders.
Multi-joint movements.
Yeah. Big compound, Use the big compound movements in a shorter range of motion, which will allow you to lift heavier, placing greater emphasis on the tendons and ligaments rather than the muscle bellies themselves. All right, that's what I've put down there, having to refer to my notes a little bit there. But yeah, like say do three, like say bench pressing. We're going back to bench pressing, for instance. Use like a half rep in, so maybe put a bar across in a squat rack or something. Half rep in explosive movement, 3 sets of 6 reps, just to help strengthen those tendons and ligaments. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. I agree. I think just say, for instance, I've actually got a. I reset my program recently. Went over it with a good friend of mine, Big Tom Kelly from Samson's, and I'm actually doing deficit deadlifts and front squats in the same workout. And Tom's a very, very good friend of mine, and he looked at me straight away, and I knew the look. There was something not quite right with that. And the first week I did it, I limped for a week after. There was too much stress on the knees. Yeah. So what did I do? I changed it. I didn't do it week on week and think, it'll get better. If your joints are hurting, listen to that. That means something's wrong. Okay, so basically, to what I would say with regard to protecting tendons and ligaments, you've got certain supplements on the market which you can take: glucosamine, chondroitin, etc., etc.